Behind the cameras of America's longest-running Western, there were scenes that were banned, rewrites that shocked the cast, and moments that were so intense, CBS insisted they never reached the public. From secret disputes between stars to footage that was locked away forever, the world of Gunsmoke was far messier than the quiet streets of Dodge City you saw on TV. Join us as we uncover the forbidden scenes from Gunsmoke that no one was supposed to talk about. The Hollywood frontier nobody expected. Gunsmoke wasn't just America's longest-running Western. Behind the scenes, it had its own frontier filled with secrets the audience never saw. On screen, viewers followed Marshal Matt Dillon as he kept Dodge City safe. Off-camera, the cast and crew navigated feuds, hidden relationships, unexpected accidents, and strict network rules that shaped what could or couldn't be shown. CBS worked hard to protect the show's image, and that meant many moments disappeared before reaching the screen. If a scene showed too much violence, it was cut. If a joke seemed too risky, the take was buried. Even storylines that writers loved were blocked before filming. CBS wanted Gunsmoke to feel tough, but still acceptable for families watching at home. Because of this, entire plot ideas were rewritten or thrown away. Cast tensions were also kept quiet, as the network believed drama behind the scenes could make the public lose trust in the show. The result was a culture of secrecy. Everyone on set knew that what happened during filming did not always match what ended up on television. The series almost collapsed before it even began. James Arness, the actor who would become Matt Dillon, was unsure about taking the role. He worried he would be trapped in a single character for years. CBS pushed him hard, and when he hesitated, the network warned they would recast immediately. Arness finally agreed, but only after serious pressure from the producers. Early screen tests added even more problems. Some scenes showed gunfights that were far more graphic than what TV allowed at the time. CBS censors rejected them right away. One moment from the never-aired pilot showed Dillon shooting a man in cold blood. The network said it was too brutal for American homes and ordered it removed. These early missteps almost killed the show before audiences ever met the Marshal. More surprising stories from the Gunsmoke set are just around the corner. Cast conflicts and feuds. During seasons 2 through 6 of Gunsmoke, tension slowly grew between James Arness, who played Matt Dillon, and Dennis Weaver, who played Chester. At first, the two worked well together, but as the show became more popular, Weaver felt his character was being pushed aside. Arness, as the lead, often received the best scenes and the most attention. Crew members noticed the change, and small disagreements turned into a quiet rivalry. It never became a public problem, but people on set called it the Dodge City Cold War because it shaped the mood for years. The rivalry reached its peak during a fight scene between Dillon and Chester. It was supposed to be controlled and safe. However, both actors pushed the scene harder than planned. The movements became rough, and Weaver was actually injured. Production stopped immediately. CBS ordered the scene reshot in a calmer way, and the original footage was destroyed so viewers would never see how real the fight had become. The incident worsened the already uneasy relationship between the two actors, and the show tried to keep the story from spreading beyond the set. Amanda Blake, who played Miss Kitty, also had her own behind-the-scenes battles. One day, during a busy saloon scene, her wardrobe malfunctioned on camera. The mistake was quick, but it was captured clearly. CBS reacted fast and demanded that every frame of the footage be burned. They believed it was too risky to keep, even in storage. Another issue came from a bar fight episode where Blake's dress tore during the action. Even though the tear was accidental, CBS refused to air the episode. The network felt the scene crossed the limits of what audiences should see. The entire episode was shelved, never broadcast, and only a few people ever saw the full cut. Milburn Stone, who played Doc Adams, was usually calm and professional. But one script included a medical procedure he believed was morally wrong and medically false. He refused to perform the scene. An argument broke out between him and a producer, and Stone walked off set. CBS decided to remove the scene completely, rather than replace Stone. Afterward, Doc vanished from the show for 5 episodes. The studio used false press statements to explain his disappearance, claiming he needed rest. Only the cast and crew knew the real reason. More hidden stories from the Gunsmoke world are coming up next. The Forbidden Romance. There was a time when Gunsmoke came very close to changing one of its most famous relationships. In a rare script, the writers finally explored the long-hinted feelings between Matt Dillon and Miss Kitty. For years, viewers wondered if the two cared for each other in a deeper way. The script allowed them to show it for the first time. James Arness and Amanda Blake even filmed a gentle kiss in a quiet saloon scene. It was simple, respectful, and meant to show that these characters had grown close after all their shared years in Dodge City. But CBS reacted immediately. The network had a strict rule for Dillon. He must always be seen as a strong, independent lawman who could not be tied to any romance. Their official statement said that Dillon must never be seen in a romantic entanglement. Because of this, the entire storyline was banned. Editors were told to remove the kiss from the episode. The scene was then put in studio storage, locked inside a vault. Years later, some former employees claimed the footage was quietly destroyed so that no one could ever restore it. The truth has never been confirmed, but many people believe it is gone forever. The decision had a strong impact on the cast. Amanda Blake was deeply upset. She felt the scene finally gave Miss Kitty a moment of honesty about her feelings. She also believed viewers wanted to see this side of the relationship. James Arness, on the other hand, was less emotional. He wasn't attached to the romantic angle, but he was irritated by how controlling CBS had become. He disliked losing creative freedom and felt the network was limiting what the show could become. The writers also struggled. After the kiss was banned, they tried many times to bring back hints of the romance. 3 different story ideas included small moments, private talks, shared gestures, or close scenes meant to suggest a deeper bond. Each attempt was stopped by CBS. The message was always the same: Dillon must stay distant. More surprising secrets from the Gunsmoke set are coming up next. The dangerous stunts CBS hid. James Arness faced one of the most serious accidents in Gunsmoke history during a stagecoach scene that was meant to be routine. The horses pulled too sharply, the coach tipped, and Arness was thrown hard to the ground. The heavy structure rolled toward him and partly collapsed. He broke 2 ribs and cracked a vertebra. Crew members rushed in, terrified that he might not survive. The cameras captured the entire moment, but the footage was considered too disturbing to ever release. CBS immediately ordered it locked away, and many people believe it was destroyed later to prevent leaks. The crew was also told not to discuss the accident publicly. At the time, networks wanted to keep their stars' injuries private, so audiences would not worry. Fans were told Arness had a minor setback, but the truth was far more serious. He returned to work only after pushing himself through tough recovery sessions that he rarely talked about. Another frightening moment came when Dennis Weaver filmed a river scene. The current was stronger than expected, and he slipped into deeper water. His costume became heavy and pulled him downward. For several seconds, he was stuck under the surface. Some cameras kept rolling because the crew thought he was acting. When they realized he was in danger, several people jumped in to pull him out. The rescue was chaotic and desperate. CBS again hid the real story. The official statement said there had been a minor incident during filming. In reality, Weaver came very close to drowning. The footage of the rescue was locked away, and only a few people ever saw it. After the accident, the show avoided risky water scenes for a long time. A third serious accident happened during a duel scene involving a stuntman and a trained horse. During a fast turn, the horse lost its footing and fell directly onto the stuntman. He suffered major injuries and had to be taken to the hospital immediately. Production stopped, and the script was rewritten so the duel never appeared in the episode. Because of insurance claims and legal action, most details were sealed under confidentiality. Cast and crew members were told not to discuss the event to avoid further complications. Even more hidden stories from behind the scenes are coming up next. Secret footage lost. One of the most controversial moments in Gunsmoke history came from an episode that viewers never had the chance to see. The writers created a script that dealt openly with racial violence in Dodge City. It showed how prejudice shaped daily life and how the marshal had to face it directly. The cast filmed the entire episode, and many believed it was one of the strongest stories the show had ever produced. But when CBS screened it for sponsors, the reaction was immediate and negative. Several sponsors claimed the subject was too volatile and worried it would upset parts of the audience. Because Gunsmoke relied heavily on sponsor support, CBS pulled the episode before it could air. It was stored away, never shown on television, and the network never brought up the topic again during the show's long run. For many years, crew members quietly said it was one of the most meaningful episodes they had worked on. Another buried episode centered around Matt Dillon himself. The script told a bold story. Dillon shoots an unarmed man during a heated moment. The writers wanted to explore moral tension and show that even a respected lawman could make a serious mistake. When CBS executives saw the first cut, they panicked. They believed it would destroy his image and make viewers lose trust in Dillon. Production rushed to create a new version. The episode was recut so that Dillon only wounded the man in self-defense, and the original negative was buried in the studio archives. Some people later claimed the studio destroyed the footage completely to prevent it from being used in the future. The rewritten episode aired quietly, and no one outside the production knew just how different it was meant to be. The writers also once created a flashback storyline that showed Dillon's difficult youth. It revealed hardships, personal loss, and mistakes he made before becoming a lawman. The goal was to give the character more depth, but when the episode was shown to a test audience, the reaction was colder than expected. Viewers felt the darker backstory weakened Dillon's strength and leadership. CBS reacted by removing the entire subplot. They replaced all the flashback scenes with stock footage, keeping the episode simple and safe. Almost no trace of the original story remains today. More hidden stories from the Gunsmoke world are coming up next. Buried behind cameras. One of the most whispered about scandals on the Gunsmoke set involved two cast members who were discovered having an affair inside a trailer. Their relationship was not written into the show, and both actors were involved in committed relationships outside of work. A crew member accidentally walked in on them, and within hours, the story spread across the entire set. Some crew members talked too openly, and the rumor began moving beyond the studio walls. CBS reacted fast. The network feared the scandal would damage the show's clean public image. Executives met with both actors and warned everyone involved that the situation must stay private. They also instructed the staff to say nothing to the press. At the time, scandals like this could end careers, and CBS wanted to avoid any headlines. There was also a practical impact on the show. The actors played characters who were supposed to share a soft romantic moment in an upcoming episode. After the affair was exposed, producers removed the entire scene. They did not want viewers to associate the on-screen closeness with the real-life situation happening behind the scenes. The writers rewrote the episode quickly, and the final version aired without any hint of romance. Amanda Blake, known to fans as Miss Kitty, had her own major clash with the production team. The disagreement started with a script that Blake felt was unfair to her character. She believed Miss Kitty was being sidelined and that the storyline weakened her role in the series. When she raised her concerns, the discussion became heated. Producers insisted the script was final, but Blake refused to back down. The argument grew so intense that Blake walked off the set. CBS called it a short break, but in reality, she stepped away in frustration. A saloon scene she had filmed just days before the conflict was immediately shelved. Producers feared the scene would draw attention to the tension behind the scenes, so they removed it from the episode. For a short time, viewers wondered why Miss Kitty suddenly appeared less often, but the studio kept the real story quiet. Blake eventually returned after both sides cooled down, but the relationship between her and some producers remained tense for the rest of the season. Not all the trouble came from the regular cast. One guest star, a well-known actor with a big reputation, arrived on set drunk. Everyone hoped he would sober up before filming, but during rehearsal, he pulled out his prop gun, fired it into the air, and scared the entire cast and crew. Security rushed in, and production stopped for the day. CBS refused to fire him because his name would draw viewers, but the incident forced major changes. Writers rewrote the episode overnight to reduce his scenes and give more lines to the supporting cast. In the final cut, he appeared only briefly, and viewers never knew how intense the rehearsal had been. More surprising stories from behind the Gunsmoke curtain are coming up next. CBS denied by Arness. There was a time when Gunsmoke came shockingly close to showing the end of Matt Dillon. During the planning of a serious, darker episode, the writers created an experimental version of the story in which Dillon dies after being shot. The idea was to explore how Dodge City would react and to test different emotional endings. James Arness strongly disliked the concept from the start. He believed Dillon stood for strength and stability, and killing him, even in an alternate ending, felt wrong to him. Despite Arness's objections, the producers decided to film the scene anyway. They wanted options and believed they might use it for a special broadcast or a dramatic two-part story. Arness reluctantly agreed to act out the death scene, but made it clear he was uncomfortable. When CBS reviewed the footage, the reaction was immediate. Executives were stunned and upset. Their message was firm: you can't kill America's Marshal. To them, Matt Dillon was one of the most trusted characters on television. Showing him die, even as a what-if, could confuse or upset millions of viewers. The network ordered the scene locked away instantly. Several people claimed later that CBS hid it so deeply that no one could even request it for archival use. It never aired, and the public never saw a single frame. The situation grew even more intense after the filming. Rumors started spreading among the crew that CBS might consider using the death scene in a future special. When Arness heard about this, he became furious. He felt the footage was a disrespectful portrayal of a character he had spent years building. Arness met with producers and made his position clear. If the network ever hinted at using the death footage, he would leave the show immediately. This was not a light threat. Losing Arness would have ended Gunsmoke instantly. The confrontation was so serious that production nearly stopped for an entire week, while everyone tried to calm the situation. Eventually, CBS reassured Arness that the footage would remain buried forever. With that promise, filming returned to normal, at least on the surface. More behind-the-scenes secrets from the Gunsmoke set are coming up. Trouble off camera. Milburn Stone, who played Doc Adams, struggled with serious health problems during his later years on Gunsmoke. His medical issues grew stronger over time, and the long filming days became harder for him to handle. Eventually, he needed to take an extended break from the show to recover. The writers created a hospital scene that was meant to explain his absence in a natural and respectful way. The scene showed Doc being treated for a major health problem, and Stone gave a very emotional performance that felt real. However, when CBS reviewed the footage, they decided it was too graphic for television at the time. The network felt the medical details were more intense than what families should see during evening broadcasts. As a result, the entire scene was deleted and never shown. Viewers were given a much simpler explanation for Doc's disappearance, and the original footage stayed hidden in the archives. Amanda Blake faced her own challenges during her last season as Miss Kitty. After many years on the show, she was tired, frustrated, and increasingly unhappy with the direction of her character. Long hours on set made things worse. There were also rumors of a growing distance between Blake and James Arness, although neither ever spoke about it publicly. During this tense period, Blake filmed a powerful barroom confrontation where Miss Kitty finally voiced her anger after being pushed aside too often. Her performance was strong, emotional, and very direct. But when CBS saw the scene, they said it made Miss Kitty too angry and refused to air it. They wanted her character to remain calm and composed, not openly upset. The scene was removed from the episode, and it became one of Blake's final unused moments on the show. James Arness also carried a difficult burden. His chronic leg pain came from a serious World War II injury, and some days it became nearly impossible for him to walk normally. During one filming session, while performing a simple walking scene, Arness suddenly collapsed. Everyone first thought he was acting, but it became clear very quickly that the fall was real. CBS deleted the scene immediately and reshot the moment once Arness recovered enough to continue. For the public, the struggle stayed hidden, but those on set saw how much he pushed himself to keep the show going. More behind-the-scenes secrets from Gunsmoke are coming up next. CBS buried scenes. For years, fans and even some former crew members have talked about a secret outtakes reel from Gunsmoke that was never shown publicly. People on set said it was a long collection of behind-the-scenes moments that captured the cast during mistakes, accidents, and unexpected laughs. One of the most common stories is about James Arness losing his patience with props that kept breaking during intense scenes. He was usually calm, but when a door refused to open or a gun jammed, he could be heard swearing in frustration. The outtakes reportedly showed several of these moments. Another part of the reel was said to include Amanda Blake slipping during a dance scene. She was wearing a long dress, and during a turn, her shoe caught the edge of the fabric. She fell, but she laughed it off and got back up quickly. The cast and crew teased her about it for the rest of the day. There was also a moment everyone remembered involving a horse that chose the worst time to relieve itself. It happened during a dramatic close-up, and the unexpected noise ruined the entire take. The crew burst out laughing, but the scene had to be reset from the beginning. According to long-standing rumors, CBS eventually destroyed the full outtakes reel. Executives were worried the footage might harm the show's image if it ever leaked, especially at a time when TV stars were expected to look perfect. Nothing from the reel has ever surfaced, adding to its mystery. Another famous behind-the-scenes story is the laughing shootout. It happened during the filming of a very serious episode that involved a big confrontation. For some reason, the cast could not stop laughing every time the cameras rolled. Someone would smirk, another actor would start giggling, and soon the whole moment fell apart. No matter how many times they tried, the tension of the scene kept dissolving into laughter. In the final version that aired, editors had to splice together tiny pieces of usable footage where no one was smiling. The full uncut scene, with all the laughter, was locked away to protect the show's serious tone. More surprising stories from behind the scenes are still on the way. Government pulls plug. One of the most controversial episodes in Gunsmoke history involved a storyline about corrupt federal agents interfering in Dodge City. The plot centered on the marshal discovering that some federal officials were abusing their power, taking bribes, and intimidating local citizens. The writers intended to explore themes of justice and accountability, giving Dylan a morally complex challenge. The cast filmed the entire episode without interruption, and early screenings for the network staff were positive. That changed when the FBI got involved. Federal officials contacted CBS directly, expressing strong objections to the episode. They claimed that airing the story could create public distrust of real federal agents and might even lead to legal issues. Their message to the network was clear: this cannot air. CBS immediately pulled the episode from the schedule and decided to shelve it quietly. Unlike other cuts or edits that were publicly explained, this episode was never mentioned again. Cast and crew members were told not to discuss it, and the footage was stored in the studio archives. Rumors suggest that the master tapes may have been destroyed entirely to prevent leaks, though no official confirmation exists. Another scene caused serious concern, but for a different reason. In an episode meant to address moral responsibility, a child on screen picks up a gun during a tense moment. Filmed in line with the script, it was intended to illustrate how quickly a dangerous situation could escalate and to teach a lesson about responsibility. However, real-life national tragedies involving gun violence had just made headlines, and CBS panicked. Executives feared that showing a child handling a gun would be seen as insensitive or even dangerous. They ordered the scene removed immediately. In its place, the crew filmed a last-minute reshoot that added a clear moral lesson. The child learns that guns are dangerous and must never be used without adult supervision. The revised scene aired instead, keeping the story intact but avoiding public criticism. Both episodes show how outside pressures and social sensitivities could quietly shape what viewers ultimately saw. There are even more behind-the-scenes incidents from Gunsmoke that almost never made it to the screen. The censored finale. One of the most dramatic moments behind the scenes of Gunsmoke came when a script arrived that called for the death of a beloved character. The idea shocked the cast. James Arness, Amanda Blake, and Milburn Stone were all furious. They felt killing off the character would betray the audience and ruin the show's tone. They refused to film their scenes, effectively going on strike. CBS executives were alarmed. Losing the main cast in the middle of production could have derailed the entire episode and delayed the season. Overnight, the network and writers worked frantically to rewrite the script. The character was kept alive, and new plot lines were added to maintain suspense and drama without crossing the line that had angered the actors. The change saved the episode, but tensions on set remained high for days. Despite the rewrite, one scene did get filmed before the cast could intervene. It showed a body being discovered in the Long Branch saloon. The scene was dark, with realistic makeup and props creating a very graphic image. Executives watched the footage and immediately decided it could not air. They felt it was far too violent and bleak for Gunsmoke, which had always balanced drama with a sense of moral order. The scene was officially declared unbroadcastable. It never aired, and the film reels were locked away in the CBS vault. For years, cast and crew members avoided talking about it, knowing that it remained a sensitive subject. After the incident, an unspoken agreement formed between the cast, writers, and executives. No one would mention the scene publicly or discuss the near mutiny that had occurred. It became a hidden story, only referenced decades later in a few rare interviews with former cast members. The episode itself aired in a safer, sanitized version, and the deleted material stayed locked away, preserved only as a reminder of how far the cast would go to protect the show's reputation. And that's a wrap on the hidden chaos, near disasters, and untold stories behind Gunsmoke. From secret affairs to dangerous stunts, from banned scenes to cast rebellions, the show was far wilder off-camera than anyone could imagine. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss the next episode of Untold Hollywood Stories.